The first Avenger is ready for an upgrade. Jarvis here, welcoming you to the latest episode of Avengers Mech Strike Draw. I am connecting you now to artist Aletha Martinez, who will show you how to draw Captain America in his latest Mech Strike armor.
Thanks, Jarvis. I'm Aletha Martinez, and today we're going to draw Captain America.
Sounds splendid. What do we sketch first?
Before I can draw Captain America in his mech, I have to draw the male form.
That's an excellent starting point indeed.
Everything begins with our human skeletal frame. Men are wedge-shaped. They're broad at the shoulders and narrow at their waist. Now, when we're drawing forms, the size of the head dictates the length of the body. So, we want to do an 8-headed figure. So 4 heads from top to bottom.
That's quite a large forehead. May I recommend bangs?
4 heads from the pelvis down to our feet.
Oh, never mind. You mean 4 heads.
Yes. Then I have little socket joints, throw in my knees, and as I begin to flesh out my figure, as it starts to look more like a person. Now let's apply this same principle to drawing mechs, shall we?
Sounds splendid. What do we sketch first?
I'm sketching my head. From my head, I need a spine, barrel of my chest, with a little room for my neck. Now, I have my pelvis, starting to look like a person. Take a nice wide stance here. Forehead's top, forehead's bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and start to really go in and add some detail here. Now I have to have a little bit of reference because, of course, I don't know how to draw this off the top of my head.
Accessing reference image for comparison.
Thanks, Jarvis.
You're very welcome.
The mech is wider than a person, but because we used a person's frame, a person can actually fit inside. So this is very much like body armor, as if we're wrapping our figure in the metal. So I use the skeletal structure underneath to pick a pose. Now I've blocked in all my big shapes. So if you look, notice underneath, we still have that skeleton. But now, it looks like he's wearing a mech.
Indeed, he does.
I'm going to switch now to a pencil.
Ah yes, I see your point.
Yeah, this pencil's good. Mechanical lead. It gives me a sharper, cleaner point. Now let's talk a little bit about putting on features, because even mechs, they have features. So how do I know where to put my eyes and my nose and my mouth?
As a faceless AI program, I'm afraid I can't answer that.
When drawing the human head, divide it in half, draw an egg shape, divide the egg shape in half.
Captain Rogers doesn't strike me as the egghead type. Now, what is that line you're drawing there?
That's our eye line. Beneath it is our nose line, halfway down, and halfway between the nose line and our chin is our mouth line. Now I've noticed old Cap here only basically has the eyes and the mouth.
You think Captain Rogers has a mouth on him? Try being plugged into Tony Stark's helmet 24 hours a day.
Swap my pencil out because I want to have more surface on my lead right now. He's a big bulky mech, so I don't really need the neck anymore. Captain America's in here, he can still fit. Remember that center line I spoke of? It runs through our head, our spinal column. So very important to help us keep things even on both sides. Notice as I draw on the breastplate, I'm using that spinal column as a guideline. So let's keep it, and you can always take a measurement from our center line through to the other side. It's even, so you know generally we're even on both sides. Very important, don't forget the spine. So what I'm doing now is blocking in detail. Again, we're making big block shapes at first. So you want to make a series of triangles and rectangles.
No circles?
Very few circles, because he's metal, he's a mech, we want edges.
Mr. Stark always says that Captain Rogers is as edgy as a baseball. I wonder what he means.
I'm still following what the human body looks like. Meaning, this is our calf muscle. It might be elaborated, but it's still the shape of a human calf. And the feet might be huge, but it's still a foot, and it's still falling at 8 heads. This figure is 8 heads. Now he's starting to look a little bit more like his suit.
Yes, indeed, Aletha. Accessing reference image for comparison.
All right then.
The captain is beside himself. And so am I, after seeing how good this sketch looks.
Thanks, Jarvis. Let's do the arms now. And even though I'm increasing the size of the original pieces that I drew in blue, I am still conforming to the general shape of the human body, that same little skeletal structure I showed you before I began. And we want some massive fists.
Good line work. We're almost there.
But not quite there yet. Head's kind of square, and where the ears are, use these rectangular shapes. So I'm still using the center line and spinal column to help me add details to the mech.
Marvelous. Simply marvelous.
Got our A here for Captain America. Now notice I'm at the eye line that we drew originally. There are 5 eyes across the human face, so 5 little eyes of the same size should be able to fit across his face. So you could sketch them in very lightly to make sure that you've got it right. But remember, we only need eye 2 and eye 4. The rest, when we erase them, the details, they'll be gone. Now he doesn't have a nose, but the cheekbones cut in from the side of the face and meet the little mouth line. So wait, we see the beginning of a face now.
Yes, I see it, Aletha.
And he's such an iconic figure that it makes me feel kind of nervous to even touch him. So it's like a privilege to get to draw these wonderful characters. But there's parameters that we have to kind of stick to. And one of them is that he's a big muscular male and we want a strong stance. Now notice the pencil I'm using is much darker than the one I used to sketch, because this helps details stand out. See the center line? I didn't erase it yet. You can still see it there. Let's use that to start adding details to the breastplate, sort of darkening that simple shape. And notice I'm not even making one straight line, one stiff line. No, go ahead, sketch it in. I'm sure you've heard your teacher say there are no mistakes in art, and that's the truth.
I'll remember that the next time Mr. Stark buys another unusual Picasso painting.
There's not a line that I haven't drawn here that I cannot erase. So in other words, you don't have to be perfect from the first stroke. In fact, there's no such thing, so relax right there.
Relaxation protocol activated.
All on the same page. Let's enjoy drawing this mech.
That's a very positive attitude, Aletha.
Once again, the center line becomes important. Why? Because just like when we're drawing old Cap, he's got a big old star on his chest. Do we know how to draw that really quick? 5-pointed star? Same principle. Go on in and sketch it in. But we want the middle to fall down our center line, that spinal cord. So let's follow that. So let's start darkening some more of these details. I bet you this is a powerful mech. Can't wait to see it in action.
Neither can I. The mech strike suits are a major upgrade for Earth's mightiest heroes.
You know one thing that really enhances our drawing? Shadows. And just a little bit of shadow work underneath here gives us a sort of 3D effect.
3 dimensions? Interesting. My scanners are only picking up 2 dimensions on your page.
Once again, I'm going to use that center line, and you can always check
What are you measuring there?
to see if we're keeping it generally even on both sides.
Ah, yes.
So let's put this belt on. You can make things look more detailed by just doubling up your lines. A single line looks rather flat. A double line looks a bit 3D. And drop a little bit of shadow underneath, and you make it pop. Now we're shaping the thigh.
Captain Rogers never skips leg day. That is why he can run 1 mile in 1 minute.
Interesting. Don't be afraid to make corrections along the way. Notice now I'm following. Remember where I drew? Like the thigh bone, the knee, shin, and the foot? I'm going to follow that to block in these big shapes. There are a couple screws in this suit. I think that's a fun detail, so I'm going to add them. Sort of a diamond shape. Remember, follow our structure underneath. And now we're going to put on the feet. These are some really bulky boots. Another outline of a little screw here and a little heel. And I'm going to double up on some of those lines too while I'm at it to give it a little more detail. A little bit more of a 3D effect coming through here.
Fascinating. I now detect a 3D optical illusion.
Wonderful. And of course, a couple hard edges. It is a mech suit.
Good line work, Aletha. Cap's mech suit is really coming together now.
Thanks, Jarvis. Now let's go back up and throw on the arms. This very much follows the structure of the human body. We've got a nice big block for the shoulders. We could imagine that this part is the bicep. And here at the joints, they have wheels instead. Now we can keep the fist a little simple, but we want to draw it to look like a closed fist. So imagine that this is the palm surface of your hand, knuckle, thumb.
Warning, pencil sharpness at 20%.
Okay. I'm going to switch back to my other pencil because I want a little harder edge. I want you to be able to see these lines I'm drawing through, nice and dark. So this is like the mech's elbow joint, so it can bend.
Aletha, you are certainly an artist with vision.
Me?
Of course you. Initializing pencil sharpener.
Okay.
Sharpening in 3, 2, 1. Pencil at 85% sharpness.
Remember, double up the lines for details. Here I created 3 on this side.
This biomechanoid suit is customized to interface with each Avenger's individual powers.
Wrap thumb.
These fists are clad in a top-secret metal alloy, so they really pack a punch.
Let's go back up to these shoulders here, because he's got a little bit of extra detail that I'd like to add. Then block in our big shapes.
That is a sound strategy indeed.
Remember that center line? Here we go again.
Proportional sizing at 99%. Great job.
Let's go ahead and start to finish it off.
Warning, your pencil's point is dulling at a rate of 5% per second.
I'm swapping back to a mechanical pencil lead to get a crisper line.
That is a good point.
I'm putting a bit of pressure on it so that it's a nice dark line as well.
We're in the end game now.
I'm just going in here and catching a couple more little details. The good old Cap also has some stripes down his middle, and the suit has it as well. So let's go ahead and add some of the red, white, and blue to his body.
Ah yes, how could we forget? The captain's costume is based on Old Glory, the American flag.
And we're just dropping in a couple little shadows here and there, because I could imagine that this really big bulky part might be casting a shadow on what's underneath. And how we decide is by picking a light source. We assume our light is coming down from up above, so that means we want to put shadows on the underside of things.
The drawing is now 85% complete. I recommend adding the final details.
Here we go. So I'll just say, so while he looks done, and he's pretty much done, we all have like a bias. And if you want to easily correct your own bias on your absolute finished, most polished drawing, draw a center line, fold it,
Initiating Lightbox now.
and you'll absolutely be able to see where you've made things crooked and go in and fix it yourself. So you can see what's even or not even.
Proportional sizing at 99%. Congratulations.
So now that I've gotten my pencil to where I want it to be, it's time to ink it and then take it to my computer and scan it in and coloring. Inking means that I'm going to clean this up. You're not going to see any more of this blue. It's going to be the same drawing except now in ink. All of these sketchy lines, the lines that are hesitant, where I've erased, I'm going to change that now to black lines. So we're going to get a lot of black and white art. No more guesswork. This is when it's absolutely straight, clean line. You want to see a neat little trick? You see the ink line, the non-photo blue, and the pencil come off pretty easily, leaving this nice crispy ink line.
Drawing complete. Aletha, please initiate colorization.
Good luck, Godspeed!
Colorization complete. For someone who was born before the internet was invented, this is quite the upgrade. That concludes this episode of Avengers Mech Strike Draw, where we show you how to draw Earth's mightiest mechs.